So why would I want to change my gauges anyway? Honestly, I just kind of got bored. So what this is showing is I'm carefully pulling off the original gauge. So really this is just a big sticker. So if you're real careful with it, you can very gently pull it off without damaging it. Now flipping it over, you can actually see not only kind of the gummy side of it, but you also see the back side of the numbers and all the indicators, turn signals, and that kind of stuff. So this is what's left underneath. Now the two outer gauges I've already done. So this is really going to kind of focus on the tachometer, but it was the same process really for all three of them. So how'd I do it? Well, first I went to the interwebs and downloaded a picture of the regular standard Porsche gauges. Now, I'm an AutoCAD user, so I just simply brought this thing into AutoCAD and traced it. So using polylines, pieces of text, hatches, all that kind of stuff, I created these two sets. Now there are two sets of gauges here, one that's all black and one that's multicolored. This will be important here in just a second. So what I did is I printed these to PDF, and then I sent them over to Walgreens of all places. Now this isn't an endorsement of Walgreens, but they happen to have poster material that is actually adhesive backed, and it's kind of a matte plastic, so it really kind of seems ideal for this. So here's a black set, and then here's a colored set. So here I am, cutting this out. Yeah, pure rocket science this. All right, so now carefully, you want to cut right along the edge. Yeah, butterfingers there. This took a little bit of trial and error in order to get everything just right. So what I did is I printed this out on just regular paper a number of times until I got the scale. I got all the little indicators and everything just perfect. So now here's where the black ones come in. What I did is I took an X-Acto knife and very carefully cut out each and every single little indicator as well as the numbers. Now pay attention to the 2, 3, and 5, oh, and also the 6 over there, because see how those aren't real well defined? That's going to be important later. So now what I'm doing is I'm peeling off the colored gauge. So this is what I actually want to see when I'm driving the car. It's opaque, but still a fair amount of light gets through this. So I'm peeling back a little bit of the backing and very, very carefully lining this up. Now these are both identically sized. The only thing that's different between these now is the color. One's black, one's colored, and of course the black one has all the indicators and numbers cut out. And yeah. Okay, get your nose out of the frame there, fella. Okay. Carefuling. All right, there we go. So now we get to cut the rest of it out. Now what I'm doing right here, you see there's the dot in the middle. That just simply indicates where the little armature to the little stepper motor that actually runs the gauge is. So I'm just simply taking the X-Acto knife and cutting that out. Yeah, you in the back there? I hear you snoring. Okay, I got it. There we go. Yeah. Okay, moving on. So now here's the tricky part. I'm going to partially peel the backing off. I'm going to do my best to line it up very, very carefully, not only with the very bottom of the gauge where you see that little arch that goes over the window where the speed is shown, but also where that little armature sticks through. Now, something that's nice about this particular kind of paper is it is designed to be peel and stick, and you can remove it. So this comes in handy because I accidentally put it in the wrong place, and now I can just peel it off and realign it. Now, this does not work so well if you're sticking the two layers of this together When you try and pull one off the other, it will remove some of the ink of the one underneath. Okay, there we go. It's pretty good. So now, right there at 6 and 2 are two little plastic nubbins. These are used to actually line up the OEM gauges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut a little tiny hole in there just so that those little nubbins poke through. Now this sticker is actually slightly larger than it needs to be, but it ended up not being a problem. There's one. Here goes the other one. And of course you want to be real careful not to scratch anything. The nice thing about this is that printing these is also pretty darn cheap, so the worst thing that can happen is you print it a couple of times. Alright, so there it is. So now I have the actual needle. So I'm lining up the needle on that armature, and I'm lining it up fairly far clockwise in the gauge. That way I can spin it back counterclockwise and actually feel where the limit of that little stepper motor is. So once I've ascertained that limit, then I can press it on there fairly firmly, and it spins just enough on the armature that you can kind of tweak it back and forth a little bit and line it up. So there it is. And there's the finished product. Not too shabby. So now, here's the old gauge. Like I said, you can preserve these if you peel them off carefully enough, and all I did is I just simply stuck them back on the backing to the stickers, rather. And that way I can save them just in case I want to reverse this. This is fully reversible, of course, because everything still stays in good shape if you do it carefully enough. And I can also just simply put it in the records of the car, and when it goes to another owner, give it to them. So this is Griot's Correcting Cream. Now, this is not sponsored. This is my own stuff. And I'm not necessarily an endorser of Griot's, but this correcting cream really does a super, super nice job of being able to remove fine scratches, which I did have a couple on the gauge faces. A little bit of that on a microfiber towel or a carbon fiber towel if you're shredding, and it'll take those scratches right off. So there are a bunch of videos out there about how to disassemble this gauge cluster, and this is just simply demonstrating putting these clips back on. And yeah, doing this one-handed is just a joy. You're welcome. You gotta admit, that's a pretty satisfying snap. All right, here they are back in the car, and it's all finished. So remember the cutouts on the numbers? You see how they look a little bit funny? So the black part is designed to be opaque. So if you really want it perfect, there are a couple lessons learned. The same thing goes for the blinkers and also for the high beam indicator. You can actually see the window fairly clearly behind this. If I were to do this over again, instead of printing out those black background gauges and cutting out each and every number in all of the indicators, I'd print it on transparency, because you can get adhesive transparencies that are laser compatible, and print a couple of layers. Line those up really carefully and then put the colored gauges on top of them. That way, it'll be a lot easier, and you can stick multiple layers together to get the background even darker and darker so that there is less bleed through. All right, well, that was it. It really is pretty simple. It's hard to believe that some firms charge like $500 for a set of gauges when really only it takes us a couple of hours in CAD and a little bit of fiddling around to get this done. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it inspires you to be creative. And I appreciate you watching my channel. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.